options. Now, think about this for a moment. You have the Packers and the Eagles playing on Monday night, and anyone who has YouTube cannot watch it as we sit here today. Imagine that. And people are the forced discipline. I agree, Steve, that they are finding other options and ways to do it. YouTube is a huge part of my life. It's every single day. I couldn't function without YouTube. I can function without ESPN. And here's one thing, guys, I don't think a lot of people are realizing. And I've been on this and been studying this now for probably about a year and a half. I believe ESPN is very vulnerable right now. And it's the worst time for this to happen because I think Netflix and Amazon are in a position to make the ultimate power play over the next, say, 2 to 5 years. They've already started to dabble into the games. They already have the leagues with them to some varying degree. And as it relates to sports gambling, as it relates to platform quality, all of that, I believe guys like Pitaro see this. And I think there's a takedown about ready to happen. And I'm in line to watch it.
A takedown of who? ESPN?
ESPN and the benefactors of this. And it's almost like you continue to punch yourself in your own face is what ESPN is doing. They cannot not realize what they're doing, can they? I mean, do you not have the pulse of the public? When have you, any of us, ever heard anybody in the last 10 years say anything positive about ESPN? And I think Netflix and Amazon are ready to pounce. This is a gift.
I think that ESPN could be drunk on its success. ESPN has always had an overinflated sense of itself, particularly the on-air talent, because ESPN had such a monopoly on sports coverage that anybody you put on there was going to have the feeling of having a following. And they really don't. That's why I sound like some people think I'm jealous of Stephen A. Smith or all that. I don't think Stephen A. Smith has a sincere following. I think he's been forced down our throats on ESPN, but no one thinks Stephen A. Smith is talented. No one thinks he's that informed or that insightful about sports. And ESPN has hey, because we fooled everybody into thinking Stephen A. is this great gift to sports, it gives them a confidence of that, hey, we can make whoever we want into a star, into a king. And it's kind of reflective of the whole mentality of Hollywood and the leftist deal is if they decide this person's important, if they want to put Joe Biden in as president, even though he's half dead, if they decide, hey, no one likes Hillary Clinton, but we're going to run her for president, she's going to be president. And Trump has been the monkey wrench, to use a word from SCAP, in all of this. And as I sit here and listen to Paul's take, Steve, I want to throw this back to you.
Yeah.
He points to the Trump effect, and I think the Trump effect, in combination with Colin Kaepernick, those two things, 2016, with Kaepernick and Trump starts in 2015 and 16, those two things working in combination, I do perhaps that is the turning point.
Well, look, so Kaepernick was 2016, and then Trump was the president at that stage all the way till his first run ended in about 2020, really January 2021. So yeah, that era marked something, and there's no doubt Donald Trump is a lightning rod to everybody and everything and anything, no matter what you think about him. But I think we're right on the 1-year anniversary of the election last year where people said we'd rather have Trump. We tried it the other way. And I think the nation, or at least part of it, collectively turned the page and said, you know what? We're not going to even pretend to agree with you guys. We've done enough pandering. We've done enough outright lying. We'd rather go back to actually liking America and not hating ourselves. And I think ESPN, with that, lost a large portion of their viewership, or a good number of it, with their pandering, specifically to the right. And by the way, the right, they like sports too. But I want to piggyback up one of the guys said about what do we really watch on ESPN in terms of programming or the daily shows. Here's what I find interesting. Inside the NBA is still incredibly good. And you know why, guys? They didn't change it. I've actually watched it a few times. It looks basically like it did on TNT because it wasn't broke, so they did not fix it. But what does it tell you? That maybe their best ensemble cast and talk show is something they did not create. They're just hosting it. That has nothing to do with ESPN. That is still to me a TNT entity, in my view. It's just on ESPN. Also, their strongest personality is a guy in Pat McAfee who right now could ditch ESPN this minute and go right back to YouTube, would not lose an ounce of popularity.
Steve, I'm going to ask you a follow up, and this may be out of order in terms, I probably shouldn't, but it just came to my head. It seems like Fox Sports should benefit from the collapse of ESPN. But Fox Sports, from its inception in 2015-16 with Jamie Horowitz, all they wanted to be was ESPN. And that's what used to drive me crazy when I was there, that there, again, as Paul points out, it's like Amazon and YouTube or Netflix, they're actually going to capitalize on this, and Fox Sports is just ESPN light.
I think there's a lot of truth to it. So ESPN, I believe, first aired in 1979. So you're talking about a network, Jason, that had a 35, 36-year head start. That's hard to overcome. And ESPN is one of those brands, even now, you think of Coca-Cola, Apple. I mean, it's not just ubiquitous. It is everything. You talk to people in foreign countries and you say those four letters, they'll know what you're talking about. I think that, and Fox Sports had to, I don't want to say they had to go from ground zero, but when you think of college football, even to this day, and you think, what's the pregame show that you watch? I still believe 80 to 90% of the people still say College Game Day. And it really almost does not matter what Fox Sports does, right? So, and when you think, all right, what is the sports news program that you watch? What's your daily show record? Sports Center. And Jason, I was a kid, and I'm sure Skapanak was, I'm sure Paul was. I used to watch CNN Sports Night. People forget they had a half-hour show with Fred Hickman and my dearly departed good friend Nick Charles, who I got to know through boxing. He was a hell of a guy. And we would reminisce about it on a couple times. I remember the CNN Play of the Day. They used to have Nick Huber. They used to do great field reports. But over time, the ESPN brand was so powerful that even Sports Night could not compete with Sports Center.
Scap, react to Paul's deal and what Steve just pointed out inadvertently is like, could ESPN turn into CNN? That, you know, basically the third cable network, rather than, you know, could Amazon, YouTube, or Netflix overtake ESPN and end up like CNN, third string?
Well, look, Jason, there's a thing. There was a premise in Hollywood that began in the 1920s, and it really crescendoed into its peak in the 1960s. The star system, where movies and such were marketed by largely the powerhouse actors of the day, and I think that system still went largely through like the 80s, the 90s. Like Tom Cruise, essentially, to me, is like the last movie star. And there was kind of a sea change that happened with the explosion of these sci-fi movies and predominantly the Marvel brand, that the studios started taking over. And in their infinite arrogance, they just assumed that anything they produced would succeed. It didn't really matter who the people were. Like, they were interchangeable. We'll just throw anybody. Anybody could be Captain America or Iron Man. Like just throw any guy in there and we'll succeed because we'll stamp Marvel Comics like right on the trailer somewhere, and boom. And of course, they're right. Financially, they are still succeeding. But what happens is the product suffers. The movies get worse. And unfortunately, that's what's happening with ESPN in their infinite arrogance. Well, we can turn anybody into a star. They just have to be on ESPN and then they're a star, right? Sure, I guess they're still making the money, but the product is suffering. The people that are watching the product are unhappy. And unlike Paul, I am an eternal pessimist. And I, unfortunately, I just don't know. As long as the bottom line is checking out and the shareholders and such are happy with the influx of money, I don't see necessarily a big change. We talk about, at least for when you have me on, about the NBA product today and how poor it is. How it's arguably the least popular time in that sport's history since dating all the way back to the 1970s. But the players, the owners, they're getting richer than ever because the money from these TV deals keeps streaming in. Like, what is the benefit for them to change anything? So while I would love this to signal the end of ESPN, I'm less optimistic that it actually will happen. If it does happen, though, we are in the perfect moment for it because of the streamers that are taking over. The whole landscape is changing. Obviously, I talked about Hollywood and the movie industry. That has changed. That has been impacted significantly from the rise of the streamers. So too possibly can sports be.
Like what you saw? Hit that like button, subscribe, and check out the full episode by clicking the link below.